And then we started. Okay. Is everybody able to see that? Okay. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the final report and finishing stages webinar. In this webinar, you will have the opportunity to learn about various different methods, tips, and tricks in order to ace your project submission that is coming up in about a month. So, my name is Suvi, and I am a Generation Green stakeholder, and I'm going to be facilitating this webinar. So before I get started, I'm just going to do a brief land acknowledgement. As a community, we have the responsibility to honor, care for, and respect all that Mother Earth gives us to provide us with life. This includes the land, air, water, fire, animals, plants, and our ancestors. I'd like to acknowledge and give gratitude to the wisdom of our ancestors that walked this land before us, as well as the wisdom of the land itself. There is so much we can learn from plants and from nature itself. The town of Oakville is located on the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, on the sacred lands of Treaties 14 and 22. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the treaty holders, for being stewards of this traditional territory. Okay, so now I'm just going to start off with a little introduction to who I am, and why you should be listening to me. So I have various qualifications and experience, including being involved with Generation Green for 3 years, and I was a stakeholder for 2 years. And I completed the Eco Count project focused on food sustainability last year. I'm a member of the Ontario Nature Youth Council outside of Generation Green, and I volunteered with HEN and supported various initiatives with the town of Oakville. And I'm here today to provide my experiences and skills to all of your projects. So enough about me, and let's get right in. So I'm just going to start off with a little brief interactive activity, and I'm just going to ask you guys how prepared you guys feel for submission. So I have this Mentimeter here, and I tried this morning, and I hope it works still. So if you can just scan this QR code, you can also, if you don't have your phone on you right now, you can use this link, menti.com, and you can use this code. And it's just how prepared you feel for submission right now. And then I'm going to be seeing after, at the end of this webinar, how prepared you feel, and hopefully we can see some improvement in that. So please let me know if you can't access that, and I will try my best to fix it. I'm just going to double check and make sure that it's still working. Okay, I do see some responses coming in. Um, okay, so we have a pretty varied response area here. We have a couple of twos, a three, and a four. So if everybody just wants to put their answers in, I can give you guys about 2 minutes just to do that. And hopefully you guys are already feeling a little okay about it. It's okay if you're not. That's what this webinar is here for. I'm just going to give you guys some time to do that. Okay, so I see a lot more twos and a couple of threes and one four. So that is totally okay. That's actually great. You guys are there because hopefully you guys can have lots of improvement at the end of this webinar. But you guys can keep putting your answers in. I'm just going to move on. Okay, so now just looking over what I'm going to be covering today in this webinar. So first, we're just going to start off with looking at the submission elements and what you are required to submit when you complete your project. Then we're just going to take a look at the project showcase and the awards that you are eligible to win. And then finally, we're going to have a Q&A session where you can ask me any questions that you have about the project or about the process as a whole. And let's just start off with the submission elements. So what exactly do you need to submit your project and what kinds of things can you do to improve this? So now you might be thinking, why do I even need to submit a report? Like, how does this matter at all with my project? And it does many things, but in particular, it can really help with your judges being able to see exactly what you did and looking at the in-depth processes. So you can also learn, and by doing this, you can learn how to make an effective report. You can also gain valuable experience from doing this. So being able to clearly document and communicate your work effectively is really going to help you in the future. I can see this from firsthand experience because as I was writing my report, I gained many different skills for effectively writing, and that has helped me a lot in my future career and overall just school. So now, what are the elements that you need to submit? So you're just going to have three specific things. First of all is the project summary, which is going to be about 3 to 5 paragraphs in length. Then you're going to have a calculations worksheet, which is a spreadsheet or whatever else you use to document your calculations. And then finally, you're going to have a visual element. So this is something creative like a slideshow, a poster board, a demonstration, or whatever else. So starting off with the project summary. Now, I decided to break it down into 4 different categories so you can see how to make your project summary very strong. So firstly, seeing the introduction. So just going over the purpose of the report, the background on the project, and defining the project's aim. So what the project was set out to do and exactly what kinds of things you first found out about the project. So for example, something from the introduction could be things like why you decided to conduct the project, or what kinds of things did you notice were lacking that you wanted to improve. Things like that could be stated in your introduction. It's also really important to ask yourself questions while you're writing the introduction, like what was the reason for me to start this project, or what does this project why did I start this project, and what does this have to do with a specific problem? Things like that. And being able to ask yourself questions is really important because then you'll be able to expand on the answers very well. Next is the methods. So how your data was collected and analyzed, specifically things like maybe you went through a survey process. So that's important to mention in your methods. So you went through a survey process. How did you analyze this data that you collected? And also really important to mention tools or techniques. So maybe you sent out a form to a specific amount of students in your grade and you asked them about a specific thing to improve your project. It's really important to mention that in whatever you did throughout your project. And then next is the results. So this follows the methods, and it's basically the key findings using charts and tables in your project. So maybe in your results, you found that 30% of students, I don't know, really dislike apples, for example. You might put this in a chart and you might compare this with another piece of data that you had. And then make sure to include relevant metrics. So for example, your greenhouse gas emissions, the engagement and things like that. That will be very, very important for you to include in your results. And will also show the judges specifically what you ended up collecting throughout your data. And then finally is the conclusion. So this is just really looking at what did you learn throughout the process, what kinds of solutions or challenges did you encounter, and what kinds of things would you do in the future. So maybe you have a project that you want to make much bigger in the future. You can definitely include that in your conclusion, and seeing, okay, so next time if I want to make this project a bigger, expand it more you might want to include that and really outline what kinds of things you would do to do that. So next, I'm just going to go over a little process and I wanted to include. Now, I know maybe a lot of you guys might not have seen this before, but I just thought this was really interesting as I was making this slideshow. I was thinking this is very similar to the engineering design process. So a lot of the times engineers use this process to be able to find solutions to problems or even just being able to brainstorm ideas. And you probably are already using this throughout your project without even realizing it. So I wanted to include this because this can actually help you structure your summary better by knowing what this is. Basically, it's just a process that a lot of people go through just to be able to ask themselves first, being able to research, brainstorming solutions, testing, and improving. And it's basically just a cycle that you go through in order to find a solution. So why is this important? You might ask about this project summary. Well, being able to structure it really well, like for example, in your introduction, you might want to talk about the need for this project. That can be very, very important, and it can help you add a lot more detail to specific areas of a project. And then when you keep going through the cycle, like for example, if I go to imagine possible solutions, brainstorming ideas or what kinds of things you did at the beginning, like background on the project can also be included in your introduction. And just keep in mind that the project summary is 3 to 5 paragraphs long. So earlier I mentioned 4 pieces that you could put into your project, but it's up to you to decide how you want to structure it. That's just part of my suggestion. But if you wanted to include an additional paragraph on, for example, exactly what you did to create your prototype or how you tested it out, that is totally up to you and definitely encouraged. Okay, now I just have this little checklist here of the do's and don'ts of a good report. So you don't have to follow this per se, but it's more of a recommendation of seeing how your project summary is going to end up turning out. So first of all, we have the don'ts, which is that it does not relate to your purpose set out, does not relate to your theme or really what the aim was or the need. The next thing is badly structured. So if you don't have a clear structure, like for example, if you don't start with your introduction and you just go right into the data you found, like your results, that might not be very efficient for the judges to be able to see what kinds of things you did before even starting the project. Too much information or irrelevant information, that's very key. So like if you're talking about, maybe if you're repeating the same information again, that can obviously make your summary a little less engaging. And of course, having spelling and grammatical errors. So be sure to double check your paragraphs to make sure that you don't have any of those. And then, of course, some do's that we need to just take a look at. So answers the purpose set out. So being able to identify that need and then having at the end of your project being able to see that purpose. Structured into appropriate sections. So like I mentioned, the introduction, the conclusion, things like that, and being able to have that very nicely structured. Diagrams or pictures are labeled. So this is more in your this might be more in your visual elements, but making sure that everything is labeled and that you're using the right information. Clearly written and easy to follow, so it's engaging, and spelling and grammar check, and keeping the audience in mind. Okay. Next is your calculations worksheet. So I know for this one, I think you might have been able to see this a little bit already, but I'm just going to go over really what is the calculations worksheets and how to make it the best that you can. So what is the purpose of even having a calculations worksheet in the first place? So to be able to organize and compare your data, as well as being able to calculate that and having a very clear look at that, this will also have the judges be able to follow your process very well and be able to see what exactly you went through, what kinds of data did you collect, and things like that. And then looking at some common mistakes that are often made during this process. So first of all, having inaccurate data. So you might put a specific data in a wrong area, and that is obviously going to affect the end turnout. Having miscalculations. So maybe if you don't double check your work, you might end up making a calculation wrong. And then forgetting to account all relevant sources. So for example, you might have maybe only asked a specific group of people, but maybe your project requires a more broad look, and you might have missed to see everybody's outlook on that, and maybe not being able to see all those sources, or even not being able to cite your sources effectively. So maybe in your research you weren't able to do that, and that can be turn out to be a mistake. Now, here are some tips. So being double checking, triple checking, very, very important, just to be able to see that everything that you have inputted is correct. Being very organized with your calculations worksheet, that's really going to help you and the judges a lot, to be able to see exactly what you did and then not getting any data messed up. And having good consistency is obviously very important. And then here I just have this little screenshot of a very organized look of what the data really looked like at the end. And yeah, this is, I would say, not an extremely difficult portion. I know most people don't tend to struggle with this too much, but I know that if you make, little mistakes, then it can have a turnout that might not be the best. But being able to just make sure that you have looked over your work multiple times and make sure that all your data is correct, and that is really all there is. Okay, next is, I think, probably my favorite one, which is the visual element, because this just gives you an opportunity to be super creative and showcase everything that you've done in your project in just a more visual way. So there's many different options to make your visual element. There's really no restraint here. Things like posters, infographics, slide decks, videos, demonstrations, all these things are really amazing for your visual element. You will also get an opportunity to show your visual element at the project showcase. So for example, if it's a poster, you might want to show that at the project showcase. I will be going over that in a bit. And if you maybe put up a poster in to advertise something you did for your project, like a survey, that's something you might want to include in your visual element. And then what are some tools that you can use to create these visual elements? So I would say Canva is a very popular option. It also works very well. You can create slideshows, and even I'm pretty sure you can even create like short videos with it. So it works really well. Google Slides, again, a very good tool, similar to Canva in terms of the slide making. And then we have PictoChart, which is really good for making infographics and will really help you with representing data like in graphs. And then CapCut or Clipchamp, these are great for video making. So if you wanted to make a video about something you did in your project, those would be great tools to use. And again, you're not restrained to any of these tools. You can obviously use anything else that you prefer. Yeah. Here are just some examples of visual elements from the past. So this is a poster board that we have here. This is an example of a written report that we had, and you can see all of this is very organized and very clear, and obviously looks very visually appealing. So you want to make sure that that is something that's key in your visual element, that it's very appealing and easy to look at and easy to read if you have information on there. And then here are just some more examples. This is a slideshow, I think, here. And then you can see some explanations, but some graphs, and again, very visually appealing. Okay, so here's something I know that a lot of us are definitely looking forward to, which is the project showcase and the awards. So what kinds of projects are displayed and what kinds of awards that you can be recognized for at the showcase. So just looking at a little overview of what the Project Showcase even is, essentially it is a celebration of all your achievements throughout your project. So you've worked very hard throughout your project, and this will just kind of be the culminative part where we will be able to look at everybody's projects and also be able to celebrate all the progress that you have made. And like I said earlier, you are going to get the chance to show off your project. So I will have a slide with more pictures, but here you can kind of see in this picture, there are some students here that are just showing their projects to some other students. You can also show them to, there's going to be other members, there's staff that are going to be there. So you get the chance to show your project to everybody. And then there's also breakfast, there's awards, there's prizes. It's really amazing. And then here are just some more pictures. So here are just some pictures of students showing their projects. We have a certificate here. There's also going to be, I think, a speaker that is also going to be there. I know there's one last year. And yeah, just more projects being showcased. And that's really, really amazing and definitely something to look forward to. Okay, now here are just a brief outlook on some awards that you can win. So there's the First Place Project Award that are in multiple different categories because of the different grade categories. So there's many different first place projects. There's not just one. And then there is most innovative, most creative, and most impactful. But just do remember that while you're making your project, that awards is not everything. And it's really amazing that you're taking the initiative to make your project in the first place. So be sure not to lose sight of that as you're making your final summaries and your visual elements. Just be sure to remember that at the end, it's not just about the awards, it's also about all this progress that you've made throughout the journey. And then I just wanted to share a helpful resource that I don't think a lot of students actually end up using throughout the process, which is the project toolkit. And it answers so much information on the submission and also just general questions that are often asked. There's also a lot of different judging rubrics and judging criterias on there. So I really wanted to highlight this because I don't think a lot of people are able to see this. I will put this in the chat in just a second. Yeah, it's on the Generation Green website and it's accessible to everybody. But yeah, it's very, very helpful. I know I looked at it a lot last year when I was making my project, but definitely something I would encourage everybody to use. And then just taking a look at the project submission deadlines. This is April 26th, 2025, in about 1 month. So you do still have quite a bit of time. Just be sure that you aren't cramming everything in at the very end and that you're spacing everything out. If you're working with a partner, just be sure to remember that it's very important to delegate work efficiently so that one participant isn't just doing everything and that things are spread out. It's also important to remember that it's best when you spread out the amount of work you're doing. So if you maybe work on it once or twice a week, you can finish it a lot better and it'll turn out a lot better than if you were rushing and you might make a lot of mistakes. Okay, now I just wanted to have a Q&A about any questions that come to mind. It can be literally anything. It doesn't have to be specific to the submission elements or the project showcase. It can be just about anything. If you have any questions about the process that Gen Green is, please let me know, and I would be happy to answer any of them.
Subi, thank you so much for joining today. I would just like to say that as a comment, I'd like to say one more thing, as mentioned in the end. Guys, if you guys cram everything together, I did the same thing. It wasn't a good idea, okay? Like it's better to just spread it out, keep it like organized, and if especially with a team, keep it organized and in different stages of the plan so you know exactly what you're doing. And so everyone, whoever has questions, you can either raise your hand and ask it, or you can put it in the chat and I'll read it out to it. Got a rough crowd here. And then I'll ask a question. How do you think us as team members should like how do you think as a team people should work efficiently to complete the project?
That's a really great question. And I think a lot of the time when we're looking at how the stage of the project, we often forget that we need to be able to delegate this work effectively so that not just one person is left doing all the work. So it's very important that at the beginning of your project or as you're nearing towards the deadline, that you're first of all identifying what work has to be done. So for example, if you need to finish your summary, you have to be able to identify that I need, okay, let's say I need 4 paragraphs for my summary. You have to clearly identify all the different things that you need. And then being able to communicate with your partner is again a very, very efficient thing because it's just going to help you out in the future. Um, Good communication is always key. So you don't have any miscommunications and you don't forget any different pieces. So make sure that you are communicating with your partner and that you're delegating the work correctly and so that everybody gets an equal opportunity to contribute. But yeah, I would just say that be careful about how you are delegating the work or how you're splitting up the different tasks that needs to be done. Maybe if one person is more skilled at a specific thing, like for example, maybe if I'm a more, maybe if I'm better at doing visual elements, I might want to work on that instead. But be sure that you're including everybody's perspective and idea to the finished project. So if I choose to do most of the work on the visual element, I want to be sure that I'm communicating with my team and that everybody is on board with the decisions that I'm making. Um, yeah, even with the writing process, I know a lot of people might not find that the most enjoyable part of it, but I know that it's very, very important and will teach you a lot while writing it. So be sure to be taking part in just about everything. Like maybe you're not the best at writing, but be sure to still give your perspective in that area and take on different challenges. So that way you can be able to grow and learn more. Yeah, I do think working with a team is very a very great decision when it is done effectively. Um, I worked with a team too. I had a one partner, and I have to say, like it was really really great. And doing it with somebody else is obviously amazing, but doing it alone is also great too. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask me. I know that some things might not come directly to mind, so you can always email me or message me later on if you have anything else to ask me. But yeah,
We'll give everyone another like 30 seconds. If anything comes to mind, even like simple questions about like the project, just ask right now. Send in the chat. I'm guessing everyone just wants to go eat dinner, sleep, do some homework, and go to bed. So I guess thank you so much, Sui, for joining us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening.
I'm just gonna
And make
add
sure,
one last thing about the student mentors thing. So I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. I don't even remember. But we let everybody know that student mentors were released. So essentially, what a student mentor does is that they just advise participants on their projects and really help out with any issues. So again, if you have issues with the project submission and things like that, you for sure can reach out to your student mentor at any point and ask them any questions that you may have. All your mentors should be in your email, so be sure to check that. And yeah, and I just had a couple of final things. So I just wanted to give you guys a closing message before you guys leave. So no matter the outcome of the project, you guys have all made tremendous efforts in your community through creating this project in the first place. And you have worked immensely hard, and don't forget the impact that you've made. So I know as we're all nearing towards awards and all that, I know we all get really stressed and kind of start to lose sight of what we really set out to do. But remember that you decided to do this project to make impact, and you've already accomplished that through making this project in the first place. And no matter what the outcome is, it's really, really commendable that you've done that. And I just have two last things. So remember the mentee activity that we did at the very beginning, where we just asked about how you were feeling about the project submission. Now, if you guys could all just type in the chat what your rating on how prepared you feel is after this webinar, so on the scale of 1 to 5. And hopefully it has gone up. But if it hasn't, that is okay too. And hopefully you are going to do amazing throughout the rest of the project. And for sure, ask any questions that you have to your mentors or to me right now. Yeah, if everybody just wants to take some time to do that, I also have a feedback form um, that is super short, just so we can improve our future webinars. So I'm just going to paste the link for that in a second. If you guys just want to take some time to complete that. But first, please type in your rating on how you feel after this webinar in the chat. And it's okay if it hasn't changed. That is totally okay. I'm not going to be offended. Don't worry. If you just want to take some time to do that, that would be great.
Did everyone just fall asleep, or like is everyone like actually like really focused on doing their project right now? All right, there we go. She gave you a three. That's
That's
good. That's good.
amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so I definitely see more threes and fours, which is really great because I know at the beginning we had more twos. So that's really, really good. I know we are always going to be feeling stressed about project submission. Um, Really coming towards the close about anything is going to make you feel stressed. So it's okay that you're still feeling that way right now. Just be sure to be calm and remember that you have already done most of the hard part already, so don't worry too much. Um, yeah, just put your final 100% into this project submission, and I'm sure that the turnout will be amazing. Um, But yeah, that's everything from me. So thank you so much for listening. And I just wanted to remind everybody that the slideshow will be available to all of you. You can email me or you can DM me on Instagram. And if you have any questions, and then the link right here is just the Generation Green website. So you can always check there if you have any additional concerns. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sui, for joining us today. Everyone, you guys are not free to go. You guys have your freedom. You guys can go eat dinner, work on everything. So have a great evening, everyone. And we'll see you guys, I think, in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.